So despite them not even making a proper appearance yet, I've had several videos talking about Alador and Odalia Blight. One focusing on their setup and how the show hinted at the two not being great parents, getting that confirmation and understanding Willow, and then seeing their presumed younger selves in the flashback in Young Blood, Old Souls. The other video talking about a potential plotline thread where Alador and Odalia try and force Amity, Edric, and Emira into the Emperor's Coven. This would kind of be one of the worst case scenarios where Alador and Odalia would try and keep Amity and Luce away from each other. After all, seeing the measures that they were willing to go in order to keep Amity and Willow apart, I'm guessing the reception to Luce, a human, won't be great. But from Dana's AMA, the Blight parents may not be as one note as they appear. How would you describe Amity's parents? Are they similar to Gravity Falls Northwest's, or worse? If yes, then in what ways? Amity's parents appear one way, but there's a little more to them than you guys think, and that could either be good or bad for our protagonists. I especially have fun writing Mr. Blight, he's interesting. With there being more to the Blights than we think, perhaps rather than outright reject the idea of Amity and Luce hanging out, maybe they will see Luce as an opportunity to get in favor of Belos. I mean, the Blights definitely strike me as opportunists. It's still unclear if the Blight family has any connection to Belos or the Emperor's Coven, but there is definitely evidence that supports that theory. First, their status. The Blights have their own manor, so they definitely have money. It's unclear what exactly their occupations are, but we know that they work, or at least worked with, Basha and Skara's parents. Since those two were deemed worthy enough to be with Amity, all of them likely come from similar socio-economic backgrounds. The Blights even seem to be above Basha and Skara's family, since in understanding Willow, it's implied that Amity can choose to cut out whomever she wants.
Amity, weren't you friends with Willow?
I'm a Blight. We only associate with a select few. Keep annoying me though. I'm happy to select fewer.
Oh, I could have sworn that you guys hung out.
And while there is not necessarily a direct correlation to the Emperor's Coven and wealth, it definitely couldn't hurt in serving or supporting Belos. There is also the connection of Lilith. Now, it could very well be that the Blights are such a powerful family that by their wealth alone, they could enlist the tutelage of Lilith. But if the Blights were also part of the Emperor's Coven, that would give them easy access to Lilith. Plus, their status and wealth wouldn't hurt here in convincing her. After all, Lilith doesn't seem like the kind of person who would jump at the opportunity of being a teacher. When responding to a question regarding Amity and Lilith's relationship, this was Dana's response. Honestly, Amity and Lilith are not that close, at least I never thought of them that way. Neither of them, from my point of view, know what it's like to be particularly close with a parent in Amity's case or a child/student in Lilith's case. They're each a tool to attain each other's goals. They are both extremely pragmatic characters, at least Lilith thinks of herself that way. So being the teacher to Amity was beneficial in some way for Lilith. Whether that was money or just the ability to call herself a teacher to a Blight, Lilith got something out of the arrangement. Lastly, there is Amity's goal of joining the Emperor's Coven. While Amity definitely seems to have an interest in joining, I wouldn't be surprised if Alador and Odalia pushed that on her from a young age. I think the line that hints at this most is this one from Convention.
You made me look like a fool in front of the Emperor's Coven. My future! You think it's so easy to be a witch. I have been working my whole life to get to the top.
Here, Amity says my future, not my dream, which makes it seem like joining the Emperor's Coven was an expectation placed upon her. Additionally, in the AMA, there was also this response to the question of Basha and Skara's home life. We haven't seen much of these characters outside of school, but I like to think that Basha's mother and Amity's mother have a tense rivalry from childhood, and they're still trying to one-up each other with the accomplishments of their children. So Odalia definitely seems like the kind of parent who would put unrealistic expectations on her kids and then live vicariously through them. I wouldn't be surprised if Odalia is trying to turn Amity into another version of her, even going as far as dyeing her daughter's hair. Amity's natural hair is brown like her father's. Emira and Edric's hair is green like their mother's. Mrs. Blight likes her children to be color coordinated. So with all of this considered, the Blights could definitely have ties to the Emperor's Coven, or at the very least aspirations to get closer or ingratiate themselves with Belos. Again, the Blights definitely strike me as opportunists. And for them, Luce might be that opportunity. Going back to Dana's response on Alador and Odalia. Amity's parents appear one way, but there's a little more to them than you guys think, and that could either be good or bad for our protagonists. I especially have fun writing Mr. Blight, he's interesting. So things going forward with Luz and the rest of the gang when it comes to the Blights is going to be more complex. The fact that Dana specifically said it could either be good or bad for the gang makes me feel like their interactions with them aren't going to be so black and white. Maybe they'll initially be mean and condescending, but nicer and more pleasant later on. But I think them being nice to Luz, Ida, and maybe even Lilith will be a front they put on in order to turn them into the Emperor's Coven. I mean, Ida was already a known wild witch and wanted by Belos, and everything that happened in Youngblood Old Souls was televised, so Luz, Lilith, and King are also on Belos' bad side. So Alador and Odalia getting close to them only to turn them in seems like a Blight move. From the AMA, we also know that there will be parental conflict, so I'm guessing that parental conflict will be between Amity, Luz and the gang, and the Blights. Considering Belos literally tried to petrify Ida, Lilith, and King and also fought Luz, Amity may be having second thoughts on joining the Coven. That in and of itself will probably cause some conflict between Amity and her parents, since this definitely seems to be a big goal for her. If she's having second thoughts, that could mean that the Blight family would lose their chance at getting in with the Coven and Belos. So if Amity isn't going to join, maybe Alador and Odalia can use Luz and the gang to their advantage. From what we've seen of Amity's parents so far, they're definitely not the best. Going back to the previous AMA response, we know that Amity doesn't feel particularly close to either of them. I could see Amity being pretty secretive of her hanging out with Luz, Willow, and Gus. We know Alador and Odalia already cut off Willow before, so finding out Amity is hanging out with her again probably won't go over well. So initially, they may be pretty upset and reject the idea of Amity hanging out with Luz and the others, only for them to later be more pleasant in an attempt to turn Luz and the others in to get on Belos' good side. The way the Blights have been set up in the show makes me think that they'll have a pretty important role going forward. I mean, think about how Amphibia set up the character Mercy. She was only shown and mentioned a few times in Season 1, but was introduced in Season 2, and the wait definitely paid off in my opinion, considering what a wonderful character Mercy is. Obviously, Alador and Odalia aren't as endearing as Mercy is, but I still expect them to be great characters. Just because they are currently in more antagonistic roles doesn't mean they can't be well written or interesting, and them only being nice to Luz, Ida, King, and possibly Lilith to only turn on them and hand them over to Belos would definitely be interesting. I know we're supposed to meet new characters in Season 2 like Gwendolyn and the character Dana drew for the charity stream, and I'm excited to meet them among others. But Alador and Odalia have just been set up in a way that puts them at the top of the list for my most anticipated characters. They just have so much going for them and so many questions surrounding them that it's fun to theorize how they'll play a role in the show. Whether you outright hate them or not, I don't think you can deny that they have a lot of potential going for them as characters, and I cannot wait to see their appearance in Season 2. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have a fantastic day, and until next time guys, take care.